Very polarized results for these two sides from last weekend. Bournemouth coming off the back of, after an excellent start in the match against Arsenal, a very disappointing way to come out with 0 points in the last kick of the game. I don't need to remind anymore. But Liverpool, we need to remind you some more. Gave Man United a whopping 7-0. So, does that tell the story coming up? Are we going to see a Liverpool thumping against Bournemouth as they did earlier this season? 9-0. Again, Bournemouth don't need reminding. What are your thoughts? You think that's going to be the outcome?
Call me crazy, but I think Liverpool are going to drop points here. I really
What?
do.
How?
I thought Bournemouth looked all right against Arsenal. Against Arsenal, they're defensively solid, a lot more solid than what we've seen before, right? It's a freakish game. The way they conceded the third goal, the second goal, he caught it off from behind the goal. I think that was just a freakish result. But overall, I thought they looked decent, and especially at home for Bournemouth. I know they conceded four against City, but they're pretty solid at home. They held Newcastle to a draw, and I just don't know if Liverpool, that 7-0. I know they scored seven, but I just don't know if that was more about Liverpool than it was about United, really. So I just I don't think they're gonna win here, and that's 100% going against the grains, but that's what I truly feel.
One thing I was noticing was I feel like Liverpool are still missing this creative player. I feel like they try and use Harvey Elliott in that way, and
And he ain't
he,
it.
he's just, he's still too raw. And sometimes I wonder, is he being put into these matches a bit too early for his development? As you say, I just don't know if he's ready yet. And it could be, I wonder if his style of play is going to be useful in modern day football as it is.
I
But
mean,
I
what?
want to know, is it his best position, you think?
No, he's being shoehorned into that midfield. What is his best position? What is his style? Nobody can tell you that just because he's just been thrown around. I didn't know that, but he has featured in every single Liverpool game this year.
Look at that. And honestly, I was wondering if right wing was his best position.
That's where he started off, I think, at Blackburn. And he's an attacker. I don't know if he's gonna move forward as the center mid that he's been, or that he played as United, certainly. But yeah, like you said, there's no creativity from the midfield or anywhere in general for Liverpool.
Yeah. So, yeah, what are you thinking? It's looking like costing them here.
Yeah, I'm gonna stand by it. I really think they're gonna drop points here.
Well, there you go. You heard it. So, what about Chelsea now? They go up against Leicester. They did collect their win, also in the Champions League. And so you just have to ask the question, are they now making a comeback, or are those two just kind of, I guess, blips in their poor performances?
Well, Chelsea have had a huge week, huge. They beat Leeds to ease the pressure on Graham Potter to go into the Champions League game, and they wrote their luck against Dortmund. That penalty, I guess by the letter of the law, it is a penalty, but sometimes those get given, sometimes those don't get given. In this case, it was. And on top of that, they got to take it again after he missed. So, but I'll say this though. I think Chelsea deserved this. I wouldn't say deserve because that's not, nobody deserves anything, right? But Chelsea have had such bad luck. I can remember that penalty shout against West Ham. I think it was Suchek who fell down and blocked the ball with his hand, which wasn't even looked at. And that's just one incident. I just feel that all the misfortune that's been racked up for Chelsea, for once, something went right for them against Dortmund. Now, you would have to say the league is probably not salvageable at this point, right, for Chelsea. And I don't know. I mean, you've been in that position, right? You were down in 16th, but at that point, would you rather just take a break from Europe? I mean, the money that the Champions League brings in compared to the Europa League or even the Conference League is nowhere near the comparison, right? But at that point, would you rather just go to some form of European competition, or at that point, are you just saying, you know what, we need a year off from Europe, focus on the league, and really step up next season?
No, I think you definitely want to be competing in European competition. Sure, maybe it would be beneficial at least even at a lower level. Maybe even the Europa League might be too much. Even if it is the Conference League, as bad as that sounds, I still see it as an opportunity for you to at least try young and fringe players, at the very least. If you want to just kind of throw it away, and it's always respectable to be competing in these competitions, especially in Europe, regardless of the level, as opposed to not at all. Now, to your point, the refresher, yes, but you still get it. As I say, if you want to use the young players and the fringe players, that's an opportunity to refresh the senior squad.
Yeah, and I think for Chelsea, it's even bigger because they have 31 players and they've signed. There's two more players to come into this squad. I mean, we'll see how they are going this summer, but 30. I mean, we're looking at 33 players if those two players come in. You register 25 players and maybe some youngsters. You don't necessarily have to register as like the B list, but even then, most of the youngsters are from abroad, so they're not going to qualify for that homegrown role. So yeah, I think Chelsea need to qualify for something. And I watched Graham Potter on the sidelines against Dortmund. I don't know what you thought, but he looked a bit more animated. I think his actions felt a bit more connected with the fans, with the players. And there was one point when the second penalty was taken, he couldn't watch it, right? He turned back. And to me, I mean, you could say you should not be doing that as a manager or whatnot. But I think that's fine. I mean, you look at the pressure that he's been under, and he's showing that side of him that he cares about the club, obviously, not just his career, but I mean, Chelsea and Graham Potter are gonna go hand in hand. Their fortunes are gonna go hand in hand, and I think that's something. I think that's huge for Chelsea, and we need to see them carry this on, and I think they will against Leicester because their home form is atrocious.
Bro, I'm seeing news reports about how Neymar is being linked with them now.
I mean, would you? I mean, he Todd Bowley wanted Ronaldo,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
so
surprised. I'm not surprised. I could see that happening. I could see it happening.
yeah.
But
I
yeah,
mean,
so what you saying, Chelsea winning this one?
I think so. I think they're defensively very solid. Um, they've reverted back to the three at the back system, which suits them more. When they have Kante back in the midfield. I know they have Kovacic, who's a physical, active player, but I mean Kante is just a different monster, right? So the three at the back looks solid with Badiashile, Fofana, even Koulibaly in there looks decent, and having their two wing backs is huge. So yeah, I think they'll be fine here because Leicester are gonna Leicester if you know.
Yeah. But yo, what you saying about Tottenham versus Nottingham Forest here, yo? I feel like this was one match I looked at, not trying to be biased, but this I could see an upset happening.
Off of off of what? Their Tottenham's recent form or just your pure bias? Because
A little of both, right? I
there's
mean, shout out to
there
the Champions League, the FA Cup knocked out as well. Like, bro, they're on the low right now.
I mean, you saw Richarlison's interview last night, right, to the Brazilian, I think it was TNT Sport or whatnot. He's basically saying, why is he not playing me? I mean, I've played and I played well. I don't know what he's getting that he's played well because he hasn't scored yet in the Premier League. So I don't know what he's basing it off of when he says he's played well. But there's reports that the Tottenham players know Conte's going to be gone at the end of the season. Conte, I think they need a clean break. We said it last week as well, but Conte's not the man to take this team forward out of all the cup competitions, which he's not known for, right? He's coming into, I mean, what did he come in for, I guess, to win something, right? And he's not a cup competition winner. He's a league winner. And there's no way they're going to catch up to either of Arsenal or City. And but I just don't see an upset happening. I don't see how Tottenham could. Looking at Forest, I mean, they got thrashed 4-0 at West Ham. West Ham, who are having a dreadful season. And Forest away form, we said this for Bournemouth too, but and at this stage of the season, relegation threatened teams tend to step up, but I can't see that happening at all under any circumstances.
But look at Nottingham Forest big six form so far.
But that's at home, right? At the City ground. This is at Tottenham.
Fair enough.
And
Well,
even at the City ground, Tottenham beat them 2-0. Maybe undeservedly, but they beat them 2-0. So
we're going to see how that turns out. We're going to see. Obviously, I hope that the upset occurs. So we're being hopeful. But yo, this next one, I don't see any chance of an upset. Although I would hope for one. Probably more than the Tottenham one, actually. City travel to Crystal Palace. Can the Arsenal boy Lakanga pull off some madness?
or the former Arsenal captain, Patrick Vieira, can he deliver for his old team? I don't think so, really. Palace have not played well at all. They're winless in 2023. We're in March. We're in mid-March. They haven't won a game. They've drew a few here and there. I mean, they drew against us, they drew against Liverpool, but their team looks toothless right now. They
I
don't
mean,
have
I'll take a
Zaha.
draw.
I mean, I guess a draw could happen, but it's just I think Zaha could be back for this game, so that's a big boost for you and Palace. But I don't get why Patrick Vieira's position as the manager is not being talked about more. I mean, you go 2 months, 3 months without winning a game in the Premier League. That's relegation form. And they've racked up some points, enough points not being that discussion of relegation. But yeah, their run of form, run of games has been terrible. I think this is probably the worst I've ever seen from a mid-table team in recent years. And Palace have a decent team. They're not they don't have the quality of Bournemouth, or I should say lack of quality that Bournemouth have, right? Palace have good players in their squad, and for them to be performing at this level, I think it's very shocking.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, City, I mean, I just feel like they're too strong. They're just way too strong. They're gonna just come with too much energy, too much pressing. I just don't see Crystal Palace able to keep up with it.
Yeah, and at this time of the season, we have suspensions rolling in. Doucouré got sent off last game against Aston Villa, so he will be missing this game. He's a big miss in the midfield. He was the one providing the energy, that that intensity. So I don't know who's going to fill in for Doucouré for Crystal Palace. Um, I think that's a big miss. So I have to agree with you. I think City are gonna get a positive result here to put. And again, City play before Arsenal, and it's going to be the case going forward, at least for the foreseeable future, because Arsenal are in the Europa League, right? So you are as long as you progress to the next round, you're always going to play on Sundays. And City have the freedom of playing either on Saturday or Sunday. So
Yeah, and I think that makes a huge difference. And with Arsenal playing on Sunday, how do you see them living up to that pressure against Fulham in a match where in the reverse fixture it was a last minute victory that took it to 3 points?
yeah, I do remember that. Um, Fulham, just like Crystal Palace, are going to be missing a key player, João Palhinha. He's serving his last suspension for racking up 10 yellow cards. So another lucky break for you this season. You know, in a string of unusually lucky breaks that you've been getting this year.
I call it destiny.
I mean, yeah, fate, destiny, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. But Fulham are a good side. You know, Fulham, they narrowly got defeated at Brentford. Well, not narrowly. I mean, they were down 3-1 until the last minute of the game. And Carlos Vinicius scored to make the score a bit more salvageable. But I mean, this team, they rely a lot on the set pieces, right? But Helene is a big miss. He's very underrated, obviously, because he plays for Fulham. But his defensive numbers, his defensive work, his ability is up there. And when I remember when he came over from the Portuguese league to Fulham, we were like, whoa, he could have gone to any of the big six teams, right? And we almost said the same thing for Boubacar Kamara, who went to Aston Villa on a free. He could have gone to anywhere, especially because he was on a free, but he went to Aston Villa, and he's showing his worth at Villa recently. But yeah, I mean, what do you think? Because Arsenal away from home have performed better defensively, right? But Fulham have two clear strengths on their team. Pereira with the kicks and Mitrovic with his aerial ability. And on top of that, you have Leno facing his old team.
And you know that that story right there is just a recipe for game of his life.
Well, yeah. I mean, Leno's in his interview, he seems positive towards Arteta and the Arsenal team. But I mean, who knows, right? I mean, there's talks of the dressing room politics that drove him out, apparently, which he denies. But I guess we will never know for sure. But he did he did okay against Arsenal in the reverse fixture, right? He was at fault for the second goal, if I remember correctly, or the first goal it was. So
Yeah, I mean, again, I think this is just a whole totally different type of match. Yes, I think that there is the threat with Mitrovic and Pereira on the set pieces, but I think we have enough defensive backing to be able to manage that. Gabriel very good in the air, Saliba very good in the air, usually very dominant against these types of players. Even in the reverse fixture, actually, to speak of that, the goal came from a mistake from Gabriel. It
yeah,
wasn't necessarily any rough housing, although Mitrovic played a good game. But in this one, I think it's gonna be different. I think we look different, we feel different. We have the additions. Jorginho is in now. I feel like we're just gonna approach it a bit differently. What I'm worried about though is the recent form. We went 2-0 down against Bournemouth, made it a match which really should have been comfortably winning that. However, good way to come back. And then against Lisbon, a tie, 2-1. I mean, it wasn't all the first team, but no, Odegaard didn't play. But still, that's kind of worrying in my eyes.
yeah, I think I think that's natural. You know, not every team is gonna, or I should say, nobody's gonna go through a whole season with high flying form of throughout the whole 38 games. But it's about whether you can get the results out, even when you're struggling. On Fulham side, I want to mention one player. He came over in the summer. He hasn't really kicked on until recently. Manor Solomon. He's a winger, tricky winger. He scored in 5 games in a row. So he's
Well,
gonna have to be paid special attention to.
right wing or left though?
He mainly operates on the left, but I mean, I think he's pretty both footed. So, but I mean, he's the goals he scored are have been various types. He scored a header against Brentford, I think. So he's not just a one-trick pony, and it's going to be tough to keep him off the score sheet.
Yeah, on Ben White's side, I'm a lot more comfortable with that. So, anyways, your side now hosting Southampton. Will you say a bounce back victory here, or are you guys mentally still shocked?
No, I mean we beat Betis 4-1 in the on Thursday in the Europa League. I don't. Another thing that worries me about Southampton, they got a positive result against Leicester with the new manager. I've never heard of him, but Ruben Celis. I mean, he's working with again we mentioned a very young group of players, right? And that result I assume was huge for them, and that is after James Ward-Prowse had missed a penalty. So I mean, there's a bit of a worry, of course, when there's a new manager and they're coming off of a good win, but I don't think we'll see any signs of a shock or whatever you might say about the result that we saw on Sunday, the 7-0. I think we should beat this team pretty comfortably.
It looks that way. It looks that way. But again, we thought the same thing last weekend. So it's
Well,
like,
no, we never said it was going to be comfortable
but
win.
still, it was very uncomfortable. So I wonder if that transitions over into this match. But you bring up a good point about the Europa League still. So maybe you guys have it.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that worries me about Southampton is I think they could get off to a fast start, and that's one thing that I've been noticing. We've been starting a bit slow. It's I don't know what it is. It's due to fatigue. I don't know, but usually we come back in the second half pretty decently. So it's been kind of covering the cracks, but we can't concede in the first 10, 15 minutes against Southampton. We can't give away silly free kicks against Southampton. The master of the direct free kicks is there. That's if we concede against James Ward-Prowse and another free kick, I'll be very vexed because you've had enough of free kicks this season, and that's enough, really. We don't need any more free kicks from you.
We need just one more in this match. But hopefully, James, you hear what we're saying, you see me? But one question about United. I hearing a lot of talk about Bruno Fernandes and his captaincy at the club. Do you feel like there's a leadership issue going on at Manu?
No, I mean, I think he's not an official captain, but I think he's a better captain than Odegaard, for example. I just I don't see anything wrong with. I mean, I've seen what he does as a leader. When Solskjaer got sacked and fans were booing him, he went over to the fans and said, "It's not on him; it's on the players." I mean, it's so easy to hide in that situation. It's so easy to hide behind the manager in the situation, but he didn't. And I forget which game exactly. It might have been the City game, but when obviously Rashford he wasn't top form, and when they were walking off the field, he made sure that Rashford got all the plaudits from the fans and not him, even though he had played a decent game. And I think he scored too, right? I'm pretty sure it was a City game. So I don't buy all this nonsense of, yeah, he's a complainer, he's a whiner, but he said it in his own interview. He does that to wind people up. And there's an interesting piece that he also said about I stick next to the referees because nobody thinks to mark the referees, right? So that's where he gets free. That's why he always seems to get into good areas because he thinks differently than most people. So I don't need all this. Oh, he wanted to be subbed off, which is not true. It's been spread out by the social media and Gary Neville mainly. He started it. Um, he sometimes dives. Yes, I'll admit that, but that doesn't mean
But then sometimes,
that doesn't mean he's not a captain.
okay, but better captain than Odegaard? How?
The guy's done nothing.
Wait, what? Bro, Odegaard sits in top of the league. What do you mean?
Again, he's done nothing.
And Bruno has done what?
He's won the cup with Sporting. He's won the cup with us. I mean, he's a better captain than Odegaard. I'm just,
No, bro. We'll see about
and
how
plus,
that goes, how
yeah,
that one ages.
yeah, and plus, you don't. I mean, you said it because I've said it because you asked me what has he done. Trophies don't necessarily mean captains are good, right? There's different captains, and that's just what I feel. I just haven't seen any. I know he's a captain for Norway too, but he just seems like not my type of captain, Odegaard.
But why not though? He has a lot of leadership. He exemplifies good attitude, good like mentorship for younger players as well. He's always doing the right thing. He always, as you say, he doesn't shy away from criticism, and he will deflect praise and so forth. Motivates everybody. He's a fighter. He's probably, bro, he's the hardest working player honestly on the field. Like seriously.
And
More than Martinelli, more than like seriously. Like Martinelli, yeah, he has high work rate. Don't get me wrong, but bro, like Odegaard has surprisingly good work rate.
and Bruno's played every single game except for two games without because of suspension. I just I mean maybe it's because I follow Bruno more closely than Odegaard, but I just I just don't see that in Odegaard. So
I think Odegaard puts himself on the line for his team more than Bruno does.
in what sense?
Like he will, like if there's a chance to like get gritty and work hard and your team needs something to happen and your driving force, I feel Odegaard's gonna provide that more than Bruno. Like you saw Odegaard in the at the end of the game against Bournemouth. He was the one driving everything, making sure to get on the ball, make things happen, increase the tempo, like really drive the team, not from just offense, but from defense as well with the pressing. He's the one who starts every press. Seriously, like he's the one you'll see him like be sprinting at the keeper, sprinting at the center back, running up, and he becomes a striker pressing. It's crazy.
I mean, you might be right, but that same thing could be said about Bruno. He's he's never shied away from the ball. He's never shied away from a challenge. Again, it's just I mean, you follow your team more closely than I do. I follow my team more closely than you do. So it's just we're always gonna have different opinions, but
You guys need to let us know in the comments who you think is the better leader, Bruno or Odegaard.